leading a global congregation of 3,000 Catholic brothers. Former Education Secretary Armin Luistro makes history as the first Filipino head of the Sallian brothers. He joins us now from his new home in Rome, Italy. Brother Armin, congratulations! Animo! All Lasallians are really proud of you.
Thank you, Rico. It's a responsibility that's heavy on my shoulders.
So, what will be your responsibilities as Superior General?
It's actually to ensure that we are present in around 80 countries. So we needed to make sure that the Lasallian family, all of our schools, maybe we have around 1,000 schools worldwide, are coordinated, that we have synergy, but more importantly, that we are able to create impact, not just locally, but also internationally. That's the mandate of the chapter for us.
So how can we still impact the world with education, the Lasallian education?
Well, and this is part of our conversation with the Holy Father very recently. As you know, he has initiated a global compact in education. And he has actually said that the education pact in the world between governments, educators, families are actually broken. And we need to start afresh. The brothers, the De La Salle brothers worldwide, take this to heart. And we are very serious in making sure that we are active in this advocacy of the Holy Father, even in non-Christian and non-Catholic areas. And many young children in the world are unable to access education. And we look at ourselves as part of that group that will actually advocate this new pact on education.
So Brother Armin, I really envy you. What was the experience like meeting our Holy Father, Pope Francis?
Well, Rico, this is obviously when he visited and I was in the cabinet of Pinoy. That was already a very inspiring moment. But this time, I had to present the agenda, as it were, of the De La Salle brothers and make ourselves available to the Holy Father in terms of the directions that he has set for the church. So in a 5-minute speech, I kind of summarized what we had planned as part of this global compact and making ourselves available to the whole church, especially in areas that the Holy Father calls the peripheries.
Brother, you mentioned Pinoy. You were the Education Secretary of the late President Noynoy Aquino. How challenging was the job?
Well, in a sense, I think that kind of prepared me to take on this challenge worldwide. With the number of schools we had, with the Pope calls this an education crisis, and that's what UNESCO also calls it. But in the Philippines, when we took over, we knew that there is an education crisis even in our country, and that continues even now. What we tried to do in the Philippines was to bring the whole community together, and we called that Brigada Escuela. I suppose that Brigada Escuela has to be enlarged now with a global reach, and we need a real global village to address the education crisis this time in the world.
Brother Armin, presumptive Vice President Sara Duterte will be taking over the education portfolio. If she gives you a call in Rome and asks for your advice, Brother Armin, what should be my priorities on day one as a Secretary of Education? What advice will you give Sara Duterte?
UNESCO, but my own experience also tells me that any educational system that responds to the needs of those who are farthest, remote schools, the last mile schools, children who are unable to go to school by themselves, if you start on that, the rest of the educational system will be able to change and be transformed in no time. So if there's any real focus, I think the last mile schools would be an important focus highlight for the new administration.
But Brother Armin, when she was appointed Education Secretary, the focus has been basically on mandatory ROTC in schools and universities. Do you think that Sara Duterte will pursue this when she becomes education boss?
My recommendation is to listen to the education experts on the ground. They will be able to share with the new DepEd Secretary that on the ground there are a lot of needs and priorities that are really more important than just the militarization of our schools, so to speak. No? But I will not close the door on that, especially if that is already ordered towards, let's say, why not senior high school students teaching, tutoring struggling students? So even that, if you tweak it a little, can actually be an important contribution to the educational needs of the country.
What about helping teachers? What should be done to augment the needs of the teachers and support them in their initiatives?
You know, my experience of the department are teachers who are very creative and will actually go out of their way, even contributing from their own pockets. My suggestion, my unsolicited suggestion to the DepEd Secretary is to actually provide the avenue where teachers can initiate and leverage on those commitments that they already have shown over the years. There is no need to actually push them hard, but they need a little affirmation. And I think a little pat on the shoulder, more than just, of course, you can give them a little more in terms of salaries and benefits, but at the very least, a little pat and an affirmation to our teachers is something that they truly need at this time.
And brother, before we let you go, there are also some rights groups who are saying that Ms. Duterte will pursue anti-student programs and policies and historical distortion, especially of the martial law period under the new government. What do you say to this?
Well, you know, on my first day in the education department, there were several controversies already. I would give her some space to just get to know and warm her seat, listen to the real needs of teachers and students. I think some of these initial pronouncements can change drastically when one listens to what those on the ground, the grassroots, are saying to us. And so let's give her some space. Let's provide some opportunity for the teachers and the students to dialogue with her. I think over time, she'll be able to recognize that the needs are real, and it's simple. You need to just provide that opportunity where you affirm them, and people most of the time respond to that.
Brother Armin, the Sallian community will miss you here in the Philippines, but we are mighty proud of you for being the new Superior General, the first Filipino at that. Brother Armin Luistro,
Thank you to everyone.
joining us live from Rome, Italy.